Be me, 29-year-old corporate wellness consultant, sitting at my parents' kitchen table for our monthly family dinner. Mom Victoria is late as usual, probably at her wine tasting class or book club or whatever new hobby she's picked up this month. Dad Richard looks tired, more tired than I've ever seen him. He's been working double shifts at his engineering firm for years now, ever since he gave up his dream of starting his own company to fund Mom's art studio that never made a dime. Mom finally shows up 40 minutes late, breezing through the door without an apology, already talking about her friend Stephanie's new vacation home in Tuscany and how we really should consider getting one too. Richard, did you pick up my dry cleaning? And I need you to call the contractor about the bathroom renovation. The tiles I picked out need to be ordered by Friday. Dad just nods quietly. This dynamic has always been there, but tonight something feels different. There's a tension in his shoulders, a stillness in his eyes that I've never noticed before. I decide to speak up about the obvious inequality I'm witnessing. Someone has to advocate for fairness in this house. Mom, maybe you could handle some of these errands yourself. Dad works 60-hour weeks. He shouldn't have to be your personal assistant on top of everything else. Victoria rolls her eyes, that dismissive gesture I've seen 1,000 times but never directed at her. Sweetie, your father doesn't mind. He's always been better at handling practical things. That's just how we work. We've been together for 30 years. I think we know our dynamic by now. I feel my blood pressure rising. This is exactly the kind of inequitable labor distribution that my training has taught me to identify. Dad has been enabling this for years, and it's honestly getting uncomfortable to watch. That's not the point, Mom. It's about equitable distribution of household responsibilities. Dad shouldn't be expected to carry the entire logistical burden of the family while also being the sole breadwinner. Richard looks up from his plate. His eyes meet mine, and there's something in them I don't recognize. Something cold. Something final. Actually, he says quietly, there's something I need to tell you both. His voice has a strange quality I've never heard before. Like the calm before a hurricane. Like a man who's already made his peace with what comes next. Victoria keeps chattering about Stephanie's divorce settlement, not even paying attention to her own husband. Classic self-absorbed behavior that I've been trying to get her to work on for years. I'm leaving, Victoria. The words hang in the air like a bomb that hasn't detonated yet. Mom stops mid-sentence about property division. Her wine glass freezes halfway to her lips. What do you mean, leaving? Like a business trip? You didn't mention any travel this month. Dad actually laughs, but it's bitter, cold. The laugh of someone who has nothing left to lose. No, Victoria, I'm leaving you. This marriage, this house, all of it. I've already filed the papers. My attorney will be in contact with yours on Monday. I feel like the floor has just disappeared beneath me. This cannot be happening. Our family is supposed to be evolved. Progressive. We talk through problems. We don't just abandon ship. Dad, what are you talking about? You can't just leave. That's not how healthy relationships work. There are communication strategies, couples counseling, mediation services. You can't just give up on 30 years. He looks at me with eyes I don't recognize, eyes that have seen something I'm too blind to notice. Communication, Amber? What communication? For 30 years, I've given everything I had to this family. Every dream, every aspiration, every bit of energy I had. And what did I get in return? Not even a thank you. Victoria finally seems to understand what's happening. Her face has gone pale beneath her expensive bronzer. Richard, you're being ridiculous. We can discuss whatever's bothering you like adults. There's no need for dramatics. Discuss? Richard's voice gets louder, something I've never heard. My father has never raised his voice in my entire life. When have we ever discussed anything? When have you ever asked what I wanted or needed? When have you ever shown even the slightest curiosity about who I am as a person? I start feeling this panic rising in my chest. This is not how enlightened families handle marital issues. There are protocols, systems, professional interventions. Dad, you're clearly experiencing some kind of crisis, but walking away isn't the solution. Studies show that impulsive decisions during emotional distress rarely lead to positive outcomes. He turns that cold stare on me, and for the first time in my life, I see disappointment in my father's eyes. Crisis, Amber? You want to know about crisis? I gave up my engineering dreams to support your mother's art phase. Remember that? When she decided at 42 that she was going to be a painter, and I was the one who paid for the studio, the supplies, the classes. Victoria waves her hand dismissively. That was a creative exploration. And you said you didn't mind. You said you believed in me. I gave up my career aspirations, my financial security, everything I'd worked toward for 15 years. Richard is standing now, his face red, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. I worked jobs I hated to pay for your classes, your hobbies, your constant need for new experiences. Every time you got bored, it was another venture I had to fund, another dream of yours I had to sacrifice for. I feel compelled to defend Mom because this attack feels misogynistic. Women are entitled to pursue their passions. That's what equality means. Dad, supporting your partner's growth and self-actualization is part of a healthy marriage. Mom deserved the space to explore her identity. Self-actualization? He laughs again, that bitter sound that cuts through the kitchen like a blade. What about my self-actualization? What about my growth? What about the dreams I gave up so your mother could find herself for 20 years? Victoria's face gets defensive. The same expression I've seen her use when anyone challenges her. Richard, I never stopped you from pursuing your interests. You chose to support the family. That was your decision. My interests? He's shouting now, and I've never heard my father shout in my entire life. When did you ever ask what my interests were? When did you ever show even the slightest curiosity about what I might want? Not what I could do for you, what I wanted for myself. This is getting uncomfortable. I need to redirect this conversation toward productive communication. Dad, you're obviously feeling unheard, but that doesn't justify abandoning your family. We can work on communication strategies together. I can recommend some excellent therapists who specialize in marital dynamics. Unheard? He stares at me, and there's something like pity in his eyes. I've been invisible for 30 years, Amber. I gave your mother emotional support through every crisis, every breakdown, every drama with her friends. I was there for every 2 a.m. panic attack, every perceived slight from her sister, every disappointment in her career that never was. Victoria crosses her arms. That's what spouses do, Richard. That's literally the definition of marriage. But when did you ever support me? His voice drops, and somehow that's worse than the shouting. When I lost my job 8 years ago, what did you do? While I was applying to hundreds of positions and getting rejected over and over, what did you do? I remember that time. Mom was stressed about money and spent a lot of time processing her anxiety with her friends. She needed support too. It seemed natural that Dad would handle the practical stuff quietly. You handled it well, Dad. You found another job within 4 months. You bounced back. I handled it. He sits back down heavily, like the weight of everything is finally too much to carry. I was devastated, Amber. I cried in my car every single day for 2 months. I felt like a complete failure, like I had let everyone down, like my entire identity as a provider had been stripped away. Victoria looks genuinely surprised. You never told me that. How was I supposed to know you were struggling if you didn't communicate? Because every time I tried to talk about my feelings, you had bigger problems. Your anxiety, your friendship drama, your existential crises about meaning and purpose. There was never any room for me to be anything other than the strong one, the stable one, the one who held everything together while everyone else fell apart. I feel this awful realization creeping in. Maybe Dad has been trying to communicate, but his approach has been passive and non-assertive. That's on him too. Dad, passive communication patterns aren't Mom's fault. If you weren't being direct about your needs, you can't blame her for not reading your mind. Direct? He looks at me like I've just spoken in a language he doesn't understand. I begged your mother to get a job. Multiple times. I showed her job listings. I offered to help her with her resume. I told her straight out that I needed help with the bills. Victoria shifts uncomfortably in her chair. I was going through a difficult period. I wasn't in the right headspace for the corporate world. You knew that. 15 years, Victoria. 15 years of difficult periods. 15 years of me working overtime while you found yourself. 15 years of me asking for help and being told you weren't ready yet. That's not fair. Victoria's voice gets high-pitched, the way it always does when she feels attacked. I contributed to this family in other ways. Emotional labor, household management, social coordination. Emotional labor? Richard's laugh is hollow. Like what? Like scheduling dinner parties I had to cook for? Like planning vacations I had to pay for? Like managing our social calendar while I was the one who actually showed up and made conversation while you networked? Silence fills the kitchen like smoke. When's the last time you asked about my day? Richard asks quietly. Not what I needed to do for you. Not what errands I needed to run. Just how my day was. How I was feeling. What I was thinking about. Victoria opens her mouth, then closes it. When's the last time you initiated any kind of physical affection, not because you wanted something but just because you wanted to connect with me? More silence. Heavier this time. When's the last time you treated me like your partner instead of your employee? Victoria's face crumples, but even now, her distress feels self-focused, like she's mourning the loss of her comfortable arrangement, not understanding his pain. I don't know why you're attacking me like this, Richard. This feels very aggressive. It's not an attack, Victoria. It's the truth. For 30 years, I've been waiting for you to see me as a person worth knowing, worth caring about, worth loving for who I am, not what I provide. I feel this desperate need to fix everything. That's what I do. I'm a problem solver, a mediator. I can find the common ground here. Dad, sit down. We can work through this rationally. Both of you have valid perspectives. We just need to create space for mutual understanding. He looks at me, and I see something I never expected to see in my father's eyes. Disappointment. Not in himself, in me. Let me ask you something, Amber. Name one thing your mother has sacrificed for this family. One concrete sacrifice. Not her time at yoga, not her book club meetings. An actual sacrifice that cost her something she valued. I try to think of examples. She gave up her gallery dreams to focus on family. Except, she never actually gave that up. She just moved it to a hobby she expected Dad to fund indefinitely. She manages the household. Except, Dad does most of the actual work, the cooking, the cleaning, the maintenance, the repairs. Mom provides emotional support and social coordination. To who, Amber? When? His voice is gentle now, which is somehow worse. When have you ever gone to your mother for actual support about something serious? When has she ever been the one you called when you needed help? I try to remember. I mostly called Dad when I need advice about my career. Mom is great for gossip and fun conversations, but for actual problems, she's working on herself to become a better partner. For 30 years? Richard asks. How long does self-improvement take, Amber? How long do I have to wait before my needs matter too? Victoria stands up abruptly. I am not going to sit here and listen to this character assassination. You're having some kind of breakdown, Richard, and you're projecting it onto me. Breakdown? He's calm now. Too calm. No, Victoria, I'm not breaking down. I'm breaking free. I finally understand that nothing I do will ever be enough for you, because you've never actually seen me. You've seen a provider, a problem solver, a convenient presence that made your life comfortable. That's not true. Then prove it. Name one thing I do that you genuinely appreciate, not what I do for you. What I am that you value. Victoria opens her mouth, then closes it, opens it again. You're dependable. You're steady, like an appliance, Richard says quietly. Like a washing machine that never breaks down. That's what 30 years of marriage reduced me to. A reliable household appliance. The silence stretches until it becomes unbearable. I introduced you to my book club last month as just my husband, Victoria finally says, her voice small. I didn't even use your name. I noticed. I don't remember the last time I thanked you for anything you do. Neither do I. Because you never have. Not once in 30 years. I feel this rage building up. This whole conversation feels like an attack on everything I believe about relationships and healthy family dynamics. And yet, every example I try to think of proves his point. Mom doesn't cook. Dad cooks. Mom doesn't clean. Dad cleans. Mom doesn't earn. Dad earns. Mom doesn't support. Dad supports. Mom doesn't sacrifice. Dad sacrifices. What exactly does Mom do? She's just different, I say, grasping for something. More expressive, more creative, more what, Amber? The word slips out before I can stop it. More important, Victoria gasps. Richard nods slowly, like I've finally confirmed something he's known for decades. There it is. She's more important. Her feelings matter more. Her needs matter more. Her comfort matters more. Her dreams matter more. That's how this family has operated for 30 years. and I'm done pretending it's okay. I feel sick to my stomach. I never consciously thought that, but maybe unconsciously I believed it. Maybe I've absorbed my mother's worldview without ever questioning it. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant, Amber. And it's exactly how we've all operated. Your mother is the sun, and everyone else is supposed to orbit around her. Well, I'm tired of orbiting. I'm tired of existing only in relation to her needs. Victoria makes one last, desperate attempt, reaching for his arm as he moves toward the door. Richard, I love you. Doesn't that count for anything? He gently removes her hand. His face is sad, but resolved. You love the idea of me, Victoria. You love having someone to take care of everything while you focus on yourself. You love the security I provide. You love the stability. But you've never loved me. Not the actual person I am inside, because you've never bothered to find out who that person is. That's not true. I know you. Really? What's my favorite book? What music do I listen to when I'm driving alone? What do I think about when I can't sleep? What are my dreams? What are my fears? What do I wish I'd done differently with my life? Victoria stares at him, struggling to answer. You like engineering journals? And you listen to the news? I listen to classical piano when I'm driving. I read philosophy. I think about the company I never started and the difference I might have made. I dream about teaching engineering to underprivileged kids. I'm afraid of dying without ever being seen by the people who were supposed to love me. Each revelation hits like a physical blow. I don't know any of these things about my father. I never asked. I gave everything I had for 30 years, he says quietly, standing at the door with his car keys in hand. I gave unconditional love. Unconditional support, unconditional sacrifice, and I got nothing back except demands for more. Well, there's nothing left to give. Victoria starts crying. Richard, please, we can go to counseling. I'll change. I promise I'll change. We've been to 4 different counselors, Victoria, and every single session became about your childhood trauma, your attachment style, your anxiety, your needs. Not once did we ever spend more than 5 minutes on how I was feeling. Not once. I remember those counseling sessions. Mom did dominate the conversations. I thought it was because she was more emotionally articulate, because she had more to process. Now I'm wondering if Dad just gave up trying to get a word in. Dad, maybe you need to advocate more strongly for yourself in those spaces. Maybe your mother needs to leave some space for me to fill. He cuts me off, his voice tired. I shouldn't have to fight for 5 minutes of attention in a therapy session about my own marriage. I shouldn't have to beg to be seen by my own wife and daughter. He opens the door. Cold air rushes in. I've already moved my things out. The house is yours, Victoria. The furniture is yours. The cars are yours. I only took what I came into this marriage with, which was almost nothing, just like how I'm leaving. Victoria follows him, grabbing his arm again. Richard, please. I can't handle everything alone. I don't know how to do any of this without you. He turns back one last time, and the sadness in his eyes is profound. That's the problem, Victoria. You've never handled anything. I've handled everything. For 30 years. And now you're going to have to learn what I should have taught you decades ago, that you're capable of taking care of yourself, that you don't need someone to sacrifice themselves for your convenience. But I need you. You need someone. Anyone who will make your life easy while you focus on yourself. I just happened to be the one who was there, but I was never special to you, Victoria. I was never irreplaceable. I was just convenient. He looks at me then, and I see something in his eyes that breaks my heart. A father looking at a daughter he loves, but no longer respects. Amber, I hope one day you understand what I'm trying to teach you tonight. Love isn't just a feeling you have, it's the actions you take, it's the attention you pay, it's the sacrifices you make, it's the questions you ask and the answers you actually listen to. Dad, please! Your mother has never sacrificed anything for this family, not once, not ever. And you've been so busy advocating for her right to self-actualization that you never noticed I was disappearing. He walks out the door. He doesn't look back. Victoria collapses into a chair, sobbing, and even now, even in this moment, her crying feels self-focused. She's mourning the loss of her caretaker, not trying to understand his pain. I stand in the kitchen, watching the door he just walked through, feeling everything I thought I knew about my family crumble into dust. Maybe I've been as selfish and oblivious as Mom. Maybe my enlightened progressive principles somehow blinded me to my own father's humanity. Maybe being educated about equity and justice doesn't automatically make you a good person. Maybe I'm exactly as self-centered as he said we were, and I have no idea what to do with that realization. The weeks after Dad left were the hardest of my life, not because of grief, because of awakening. I started noticing things I'd never noticed before. How Mom called me 6 times in the first week, not to ask how I was doing, but to complain about how hard everything was now that Dad wasn't there to handle things. How she expected me to take over the roles he'd abandoned. "Amber, can you come over and fix the garbage disposal? Your father always handled these things." "Amber, I need you to look at my car, it's making a noise. Richard always took care of the maintenance." "Amber, can you transfer some money to cover the electricity bill? I don't know how to set up autopay." Every request was a reminder of how much Dad had done invisibly. Every demand was another example of what he'd been carrying for decades. And slowly, painfully, I started to understand. I'd spent my entire life advocating for Mom's right to pursue her passions while never once asking about Dad's. I'd defended her difficult periods while dismissing his burnout as just being the provider. I'd championed her emotional needs while assuming his were irrelevant. I'd been complicit in his invisibility. That realization shattered something inside me. All my training about equity and justice and healthy relationships, and I'd been practicing the exact opposite in my own family. I started calling Dad. At first, he didn't answer, but I kept trying, leaving voicemails that were less about fixing things and more about actually asking questions. "Dad, I'm sorry I never asked about your day. Can you tell me what you've been doing?" "Dad, I'm sorry I never asked about your dreams. What company did you want to start?" "Dad, I'm sorry I never saw you. Can you help me learn how?" After 3 weeks, he called back. We talked for 4 hours. He told me about the engineering projects he'd dreamed of pursuing, the mentorship program he'd wanted to start for kids from low-income backgrounds, the philosophy books that had shaped his worldview, the classical piano pieces that made him cry when no one was around to see. I learned more about my father in that one conversation than I had in 29 years of living as his daughter, and I realized what he'd been trying to tell us that night. Love isn't just presence, it's attention, it's curiosity, it's the willingness to see someone for who they really are, not just what they can do for you. I'd failed at that. We all had. But unlike Mom, I was willing to change. 6 months later, Dad started his engineering mentorship program. He used his savings, the money he'd been secretly squirreling away for years in case he ever found the courage to leave. He partnered with local high schools to identify students with potential but no resources. Within a year, he had mentored 32 students. 3 of them got full scholarships to engineering programs. One of them sent him a letter saying he was the first adult who had ever believed in her. Dad framed that letter and hung it in his new apartment, a modest place with books everywhere and classical piano always playing softly in the background. He was happy, for the first time in decades, genuinely happy. Mom, meanwhile, was struggling. Without Dad to handle everything, she was forced to confront her own helplessness. She had to learn how to pay bills, maintain a house, manage a budget, exist as an adult in the world without someone else doing the hard parts. Some of it she figured out. Most of it she complained about endlessly. "Richard left me with nothing," she told anyone who would listen. "After 30 years of marriage, he just abandoned me." She never mentioned what he'd given her for those 30 years, the sacrificed dreams, the endless labor, the invisible support that kept her life comfortable. She only saw what she'd lost, not what she'd taken. I stopped having monthly dinners with her, not out of anger but out of self-preservation. Every conversation was about her. Every interaction left me drained. She hadn't changed at all. She was still waiting for someone to take care of her, still looking for the next person to orbit around her son. I refused to be that person. Instead, I spent my time with Dad. We went to his students' graduation ceremonies together. We talked about philosophy and engineering and the meaning of a life well lived. We had real conversations about feelings and fears and dreams. He asked about my day. He listened to my answers. He remembered things I'd told him and followed up on them later. This is what love looks like. I realized. Not grand gestures or passionate declarations, just steady, consistent attention to the person in front of you. Last month, I got promoted at work. The first person I called was Dad. "That's wonderful, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you. What project are you most excited about in the new role?" He asked a follow-up question. He wanted to know more about me, not what this meant for him. When I told Mom the news, she immediately started talking about how stressed she was about the house. Same patterns, same self-focus, same complete inability to see beyond her own needs. But I'm not angry anymore. I'm just sad. Sad for the woman who never learned how to love someone other than herself. Sad for the decades Dad spent hoping she would change. And grateful. Grateful that he finally found the courage to leave. Grateful that he's finally living the life he deserved all along. Grateful that I woke up in time to learn the lesson he was trying to teach. Love is attention. Love is sacrifice. Love is seeing someone for who they really are and choosing them anyway. Mom never loved Dad. She loved what he did for her, and that was never enough. My father left my mother on a random Thursday evening in October. He walked out of a 30-year marriage, away from a wife who never saw him and a daughter who was too blind to notice. It was the bravest thing I've ever witnessed, and it taught me more about love, sacrifice, and self-worth than all my years of corporate training ever could. Sometimes the people who give the most are the ones who receive the least. Sometimes the quiet ones carry the heaviest burdens. Sometimes the person everyone takes for granted is the only one holding everything together. Dad was all of those things, and now he's free, living in his small apartment filled with books and music, mentoring students who remind him why he became an engineer in the first place, cooking meals he actually wants to eat, sleeping peacefully without the weight of invisible expectations crushing him. He's not angry. He's not bitter. He's just himself. For the first time in decades, genuinely himself. And that's the real revenge, isn't it? Not destroying the people who hurt you, not making them pay for their crimes, just living well, finally. After so many years of existing only for others, Mom still calls me sometimes, still wanting attention and support and someone to carry her burdens. I answer when I can, but I've set boundaries now. I'm not her replacement husband. I'm not her emotional support animal. I'm just her daughter, and that has to be enough. If she ever wants a real relationship, she'll have to learn to give as much as she takes. I'm not holding my breath, but Dad and I are closer than we've ever been. We talk every week. We see each other every month. We have actual conversations about actual things that matter. He asks how I'm doing. He remembers what I tell him. He cares about my life, not just what I can do for him. That's love. Real love. The kind that was always there, just buried under decades of invisibility and unappreciated sacrifice. The day Dad walked out, I thought my family was ending. I was wrong. My family was finally beginning, just with different definitions of who actually belonged. Some families are blood, some families are choice, and some families only become visible when the people who were always overlooked finally stand up and say, "I matter too." Dad mattered. He always did. It just took him leaving for any of us to see it, and now I'll spend the rest of my life making sure he knows. I see him. I appreciate him. I love him for who he is, not what he provides. That's the lesson. That's the story. That's the only revenge that matters, becoming the person who finally sees what everyone else missed, and living well, together, in the aftermath of everything that was taken for granted. My father taught me that love isn't just a feeling. It's a practice, and I'm practicing every day, for him, for myself, for the family we're building now, one honest conversation at a time.